When Steve was young in his career, he was mentored by a judge that changed his life. His story is an inspiring one you're not going to want to miss. Welcome back to the Sterling Family Law Show, the podcast designed to help law firm owners build the practice of their dreams. I'm your host, Tyler Dolph. I'm also the CEO of our law firm marketing agency called Rocket Clicks that was actually born out of our own family law firm, Sterling Lawyers, that has continued to grow and has over 27 attorneys. Today, we're continuing our law firm owner series. We interview Steve, who has an estate practice in Minneapolis and St. Paul in the Twin Cities. He has a great story to tell about leadership and mentorship and how he is giving back to his team in the same way that he was mentored as a young law clerk. Steve, thank you so much for your time today. I'm really excited to learn about you and your firm. Would you do me a kindness and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your firm as it is today?
Absolutely. Well, and thanks for having me. My name's Steve Messick. I had started Messick Law, which is my current firm, in June of 2020. So right at the start of the pandemic. It's a great time to start a practice. But I had was a shareholder in another firm, and I had a book of clients, and so it was a good way to start. And in fact, my former partners were exceedingly supportive of the venture. I started with myself and a paralegal, and then we just grew from there. My main practice area is in trust and estate litigation, and we were able to bring on some very talented trust and estate litigators, as well as a family. We have a family law practice group, and then we do related work in guardianship, conservatorships, and real estate. Some of these, the family, trust and estate, always kind of we're dealing with real estate, we're dealing with family businesses, and then the related civil litigation that comes with it. So, we've just this is our fifth year in operation. We now have a staff of 10. We're still growing, so we have some interviews coming up, and hopefully some positions to fill.
That's amazing, and congrats on your success in such a short amount of time.
Well, thank you. It really is due to the team that we built. It was finding the right people who want to be here, and really it's their investment in the practice has really made the difference.
Right. Talk to me about starting out. Why'd you want to leave the firm that you were a partner in already, and what was that catalyst?
So really, it was distance. I live essentially, for your viewers, I live just outside of St. Paul, which is refer to the St. Paul, Minneapolis as the Twin Cities, and the practice that I was with was about an hour south, and I had been making that drive since my early clerkship. I clerked for a judge down in Rice County. It's a beautiful community. Rural Minnesota, wonderful town, wonderful people. It came down to distance, is all, and with the ages of my kids, that kind of hour to an hour and a half in the winter to 2 hours each way, kind of cut into that family time. So it was just. It was the right time to do that. But the good part of that was maintaining a really good relationship with my former partners. As I said, when we started, they were exceedingly supportive of me kind of venturing out, and it really made a difference.
That's amazing and rare. You normally don't see that. Yeah, go ahead and take some of this business away from us and go do your own thing.
Yeah, it's exceedingly supportive, and in fact, one of my former partners is now of counsel with this firm, and that's just been a great relationship to maintain. I mean, his years of experience. He's the one who mentored me in the practice, right? Showed me how to do what I do today, and so having him on board is extra special.
That is really amazing. I want to venture back. You mentioned mentorship, and we talk on this podcast all the time about how that is such a key element to being successful in building your own law firm and having a law firm and being great attorneys is having people there that have done it. It's why we have this podcast to help the community. Um, did you have a mentor early on, like in the first part of your career? Tell us how you got started and why you
Yeah.
were able to be successful.
Yeah, really the first part of my career, I was very fortunate to clerk for Judge Tom Neville. Um, Judge Neville, is widely regarded as just an excellent jurist. Before that, he was in the Minnesota State Senate for many years as just a very consensus building individual, and so that clerkship, at the time, this was 2010. Heck of a time to come out into the job market. It was a very competitive to get that in the first place. Hence the driving, an hour to 2 hours at a time to get a clerkship, which at the time didn't pay really well. They still in Minnesota. They have done the judiciary's done a great job of investing in the clerks and allowing kind of a staggered or an increased pay scale for years of service, because there are judges up here who want to have a career clerk, and there are clerks who want to make a career out of it, and they've gone a step closer into making that happen with the pay structure. But I was able to clerk for him for 2 years. We saw every kind of case, from probate to criminal. We actually had a very, very high profile case. It was made national news, and that was a court trial. So we got to be part of that. So that was my first step of being in the courtroom. It really demystified the process, sitting in on jury trials, going in and talking to the jury after the trials to see what their thoughts were on the process. And it was the best way for me to learn. And certainly, Judge Neville had practiced for, 30 plus years. So hearing his perspective, he was one that, very much would talk through cases, really wanted my opinion on things. At his retirement party, he had all of his clerks there, and he said, you were the judge's lawyer. That's what your role is. And so it was just a really great. Sadly, he's passed away, but his legacy certainly lives on with his clerks, many of whom I still are in contact with out in the legal community. After that, mentored by who became later on my partners. Just tremendous. Not only they had tremendous experience in the law, but a tremendous experience in the community. And there I learned a lot about the law and clerking. I learned more in practice. But coming out of clerking, I didn't necessarily know how to talk to clients about asking for money. I didn't know how to have difficult conversations about billing. How important that initial client interview is, both on do I want to take the case, and for them, do they want to hire me? And then that ongoing client interaction, and then obviously you get into how do you take a deposition? How do you? What is mediation strategy? How do you? And so I was very fortunate to be mentored in all of those processes, and I'm sure you know this is that no matter how long we've been practicing, we're still learning. We're still developing skills. But that's the mentoring side of thing. That's one of the parts I love most about my position. What I want to see my position grow into over the years is I will, as long as I'm licensed, I'm still going to be practicing. But the point I want to get to in my career is to bring in the clients, still have an active caseload, but to have more of that time dedicated to mentoring the younger attorneys. At a firm my size, that's the struggle, is maintaining my full caseload and then managing the practice, managing the day-to-day finances, and then carving out that time for the associates to feel like they can get that quality time. And as you know, as an owner, it's an investment. When I'm mentoring, I'm generally not having the associate bill, or I'm not billing. I'm having the associate billing at their rate, because the size of the firm we're at, our clients are accustomed to seeing multiple people on a bill, but we don't stack them three deep and have everyone run wild. I mean, that's just, I don't think, a cost effective means of practicing. So it's an investment, noting that, there's going to be a lot of time that we're going to have to write off. But I think it's essential. There was the saying, I know of some owners, they'd say, well, what happens if you train people and they leave? Well, what happens if you don't, you stay? And that's a philosophy that I certainly have taken to heart. Yeah, people will. We have seen more transition in the industry. I think generationally, we're seeing people at places for 1 or 2 years as opposed for 10 and 12. Well, to me, I want to make this place as amenable for somebody to stay that 10 years. But to know we may not have them, right? That people are going to come in, move out. It's just part of the job.
Family law isn't like other practice areas. Your callers are not shopping for a service. They're looking for someone who makes them feel safe enough to share the worst thing happening in their life. The firm that hears them first wins every time. And that's what changed everything at Sterling.
We eventually built that system into 4 actionable steps. On this free training, Mary Sankey, who leads our sales team, is going to break down the entire 4-step sales system. She is Sterling's sales manager. She's the one who runs it every single day. So go ahead and register below for the sales secrets of an $18 million family law firm. I'll see you there. Yeah, well said. It's really inspiring to hear you talk about how impactful that judge was on your career and on your life. And the fact that so much so that, it's almost like you want to have that same impact on the next generation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Were there any key lessons or sayings or, things that you really take away that you impart on others?
From a client perspective, and certainly my prior partners really impressed upon me is it is okay if you don't know the answer. The worst thing you can do is BS a client. It's the same as BS in the judge. You don't do it. It's I don't know the answer. We'll find it. And that's when you ask more questions. In that client consult, there are plenty of times where the client's going to say, well, what's the solution here? Well, I think we've got a couple options. I need to dig into it. And that's where you then start asking questions instead of just talking and trying to get through that process. And I think that's something for a lot of young attorneys I think we all have this kind of an imposter syndrome where, they'll see an amazing attorney who's been practicing 25 years sitting across the table. And this is their first deposition. And they're scared, scared that they're going to make a mistake, scared they're going to look stupid. It's a natural feeling. And I've always told the associates, don't worry about it. I guess from my clerking, I've seen people practicing for 30 years that still don't know what they're doing. But I've seen people practicing 5 who are great. I said, you're going to get into that. You're going to make mistakes. And everyone feels that way. I think everyone, especially at first day of trial, for your first trial, you're going to walk in thinking the other side knows everything and you know nothing. And there's nothing further from the truth. Both sides stayed up late the night before, are nervous, are concerned about how they're going to perform and what their client's going to think. And that's, the high pressure job that we have. That's what we signed up for. But everyone's in that same boat.
Yeah, it's a great point. Being open and vulnerable enough to ask for help when you don't know, you're going to go so much further, so much faster.
Exactly.
I think people think they're going to get judged like, oh, I can't believe you don't know this. But people just want to help people out, right? And they want to see them succeed.
We've been, Patty in my office, who's just brilliant, and she's been practicing as long as I have. And we just got back from the Trust and Estate Conference. And there were things that I looked and I said, we should have known this, shouldn't we? She's like, no, it's a very in-depth area of law where you're not going to know everything. And we chuckle because we're like, 10 years ago, we would have just been pale-faced white, like everybody knows this. I didn't know this. And no, I mean, we had people in that room who've been doing this for 30 years said, oh, yeah, I didn't think of that. Good. Take notes on that. That's something to consider.
That's so great. I want to focus on lessons learned in building your firm and things that, another attorney who's either looking to grow their firm, grow their practice, or come out on their own. What are some things that you learned as you were kind of starting that journey because you had been successful at a firm already? It's not like you graduated law school and then started from scratch.
Mhm.
I'm assuming you knew about billing and you knew how to run a business a little bit. Were there any
Yeah.
like big surprises when you started out?
What I found to be incredibly important is having good data. Uh, and that's in all aspects of the practice. So, knowing where your clients are coming from, why they're coming to you, which of those sources have the highest conversion rates, right? Am I getting a lot of phone calls from certain advertising, but they're just not the clients that I want? So, having that data, capturing it, it takes time. It takes staff time. When you're starting on your own, you want to you're saying, I got to be billing right now to pay the bills, and I will get to filling out those spreadsheets later. And I would say, take the time. The clients will come. You will get your billing done, but the sooner you capture that data, and this is on everything, your expenses, basically having an understanding of your numbers is going to tell you what you need to generate, and that's going to be essential when you start bringing on staff. That's the scariest thing for any employer is when you're bringing on staff. You are now responsible for another person and persons. There are obviously rules that need to be followed. They're going to get paid even if you don't. So it's the having those numbers actually takes some of that stress off. Right now, and it's taken time, but I can tell you exactly what it costs to have an attorney in a chair, what it costs to have a paralegal in a chair, what their revenue goals should be, how we need to get those revenue goals, what the lead time is before, especially if we have a new associate, what that lead time is to profitability, what is the average. Data allows you to know that. That allows me to make better decisions, specifically when hiring, when to hire, what to set that pay at, what the market is willing to bear, what to set our billing rates at. And that's allowed us to set reasonable goals. One of the goals of this firm is that if unless you're in trial, you shouldn't be here after 5. That now with that mindset, we certainly know, yeah, okay, our revenue is going to be down compared to other firms that are requiring 1,900 hours. We know that we're profitable at about an annual between 1,000 and 1,200. And then I build in incentives for attorneys who, if they want to do more, that's great, and they should get paid more. If they want to be out by 4:30 and with their family, I think that's great. As long as we're efficient when we're here, having a feel for those numbers allows me to be very comfortable when I set their compensation, to be very comfortable when I set their revenue goals for the quarters. And so, yeah, it comes down to, if you think it's your data is too minute, no, that's fine. You can set the filters. You can, as long as you've captured it, as long as you've accurately captured it. That's one of I think the biggest keys of advice I'd have for anybody starting out in practice.
So good. The only thing I would add is when you're doing those processes, billing process, or things that you're not going to do as you scale, document those processes so that then someone else can do them and you don't have to go back and reteach them everything.
That's key. I think one of the other things that I thought was very important is, and I've been blessed with having a paralegal who's been with me from the start. She's done a tremendous amount of work and is very invested in the firm. We started knowing we were going to have employees with our process manual, with how we wanted to do things, and I'm kind of anal. I said, here's the font that we're going to use in our page pagination. I wanted it in one place, and the key with that is then being consistent about it, and then developing kind of our onboarding process. We've had to do that, especially with our IT, of knowing, okay, we've got a checklist, we've got someone new coming on, we've got a plan for them, kind of the program, and it does streamline things. And so again, having looking to the future, I think to your point of documenting the especially the tasks that are going to be replicated, absolutely, that's very smart.
There's so many tools out there, and something that it took me a long time to learn because I'm very like, oh no, figure it out, blah blah blah. But as soon as we started documenting, that's when it really started to scale because it wasn't just living in someone's head.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Steve, I love it. Tell me about the future of your firm. What are you focused on? What are you working towards? What are
Sure.
you hoping to achieve?
Ideally, the we would like to get to scale the firm to be doing about 10 million gross annually in revenue. At that size, we're not going to be too big. We're not going to be, uh, uh, something unrecognizable, but we will have the resources and the people to really be able to train our folks to, like the big firms, they send their associates to NIDA. Well, I want my associates to have that ability, and we're doing that. I want to have an educate, and we do have an education plan for our associates for each year. But I want to be much more intentional about that to have the internal resources. I think at that, certainly at some point, equity ownership is going to change. Right now, when I envisioned I'm the sole owner, I knew after about year 5 to 8, that's going to probably change. And the reason for that is one, investment. I want the people who want to stay here to, to be part of that ownership. Certainly, that's assists me in knowing, okay, there's a little more longevity there. I don't need the capital, but I certainly, depending on the model, no one's going to buy this practice when I'm done. Those days are gone. And so, the question is where you're going to have where your income stream is going to be when you are getting ready to retire. Well, it's either additional owners, and that's where you're getting it, or you essentially get that revenue now with the buy-in, right? And so, right now, I'm exploring. There are some great practitioners who really counsel attorneys in how do you structure the ownership, because there's so many different options. And frankly, right now I'm weighing through that of what's going to make sense. But I definitely in the future see the ownership structure changing. I see basically we're going to be adding likely 2 attorneys in the remainder of 2025. The work is sufficient that if we could find 2 more, and that's the struggle. I don't know what you've been running into in the Twin Cities. Finding attorneys that have some experience is difficult. It is, and I've talked to people. Why is that? And I said, well, you look back at 2008 and 2010 when I came out of law school in '08. Only about half the people I graduated with got a job in the legal field. So that means half the people, or a little less than that, they went off and did something else. They got their JD. There were no law jobs, and so they're out of the market. And we saw law school enrollment absolutely decline. In the Twin Cities here, we had 2 independent law schools, Hamlin, which was my alma mater, and William Mitchell. Both were struggling. They had to combine in order to just stay alive because of the enrollment. So I think we're dealing with people if you say, hey, who's got 10 years experience? That pool is so much smaller, I think, than in other years. And that's the only thing I can think of. But I will say that has been our greatest struggle is finding attorneys with some experience. And the reason, the size I'm at now, I need to get the folks with experience in so that they can mentor. I have no problem bringing on a young associate, but if I'm doing so, I want to commit to them that they have a constant stream of mentoring, and that's where having a good mix of experience is essential, and that's our main challenge right now.
I love it. Yep. No, we same issues here. We've taken it so far to say we're just going to partner with the law schools, with Marquette and UW Madison here in Wisconsin, and we're going to hire a lot of law clerks and a lot of law students, and we're going to take a 10-year plan and just grow them into the attorneys that we want them to be.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Steve, I love it. I'm so appreciative of your time, your insights. The story around being mentored and what an impact that had on you is really going to stick with me, and inspired me to be a better coach and leader myself. So I really appreciate it today.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, and this is great. And I hope your listeners, if they have questions, find me. Happy to shoot emails. It's the other thing I tell young attorneys is that anybody in this profession, don't be afraid to reach out, especially if you're a law student and go, I don't know what I want to do. Get out the Rolodex, because attorneys love to talk about themselves. I mean, they'll talk your ear off. You just have to get one on the phone. So, that's the other great part, I think, of this industry is that if you asked, the rare occasion is somebody would say no. The vast majority, you're going to get a response.
Worst case, they say no, and you move on to the next one.
You move on.
That's it. Appreciate you, Steve. Have a wonderful rest of your day.